Magnetostatics. In today's lecture, we will discuss about magnetostatics, force on a charge moving in a magnetic field, magnetic force due to current carrying wire, Biot-Savart law, applications of Biot-Savart law, magnetic field due to straight, current carrying conductor, magnetic field due to current loop, and magnetic field due to solenoid. In electrostatic, we deal with stationary electric charges. In magnetostatic, we deal with static electric current. A moving charge sets up a space around it called magnetic field. A moving charge have electrostatic field and magnetostatic field both. A stationary charge have only electrostatic field. It do not have magnetic field. Force on a charge moving in a magnetic field, Lorentz force. When a charged particle moves in a magnetic field, it experiences a force, and this force is called Lorentz force. And as you see in this figure, the direction of Lorentz force is perpendicular to the direction of the magnetic field as well as to the direction of motion of the particle. Suppose a charged particle of charge plus q is moving with the velocity v, making an angle of 90 degree with the magnetic field, then the Lorentz force acting on the particle will be F equals to QVB. But if the charge is stationary, there will be no Lorentz force acting on the particle and F will be 0. When a charged particle enters in a magnetic field making an angle theta, then the Lorentz force acting on the charged particle is equals to QVB sine theta. And in vector notation, we can write vector F equals to Q vector V cross vector B. When charged particle enters in a region where both electric and magnetic field are present, then vector F equals to Q naught vector E plus Q naught vector V cross vector B, or we can say vector F equals to Q naught vector E plus vector V cross vector B. Magnetic force on current carrying wire or conductor. When a current carrying conductor lies in a magnetic field, magnetic forces are exerted on the moving electrons within the conductor. These forces are transmitted to the material of the conductor, and hence the conductor as a whole experiences a force. If you see in the figure, there is a straight conductor of length L and a cross section area A, within which there is a current I. A magnetic field of flux density B is perpendicular to the conductor. Since the force on the conductor as a whole is the resultant of the force on the moving charges within it, let us take small n as a number of charges per unit volume which are moving inside the conductor with the drift velocity small v. So as per the relation between the current and drift velocity I equals to NQAV, we have a force on each charge that is equals to QVB. Now the number of charges in length L is equals to NLA, and the resultant force F is equals to NF, that is equals to NLAQBV. And as we know, I equals to NQVA, so the force on the conductor will be F equals to IBL. And if conductor makes an angle theta with the direction of magnetic field, then in that case force will become F equals to IBL sine theta. If magnetic field is not uniform or conductor is not straight, in that case dF equals to IBDL sine theta, and in vector notations vector dF equals to I vector dl cross vector B. Next is Biot-Savart law. In 1820, two French physicists, Jean-Baptiste Biot and Felix Savart, derived the mathematical expression for magnetic flux density at a point due to nearby current carrying conductor. This law is analogous to Coulomb's law in electrostatics. As you see in figure, XY is a long current carrying wire, I is a current flowing through the wire, DL is a small element of wire, P is a point in space where we want to find out magnetic field, R is a distance from element DL to point P, and theta is angle between length element and line joining element to point P. Now magnetic field at point P, that is equals to dB equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I dl sin theta upon r square. In vector notation, vector dB equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I vector dl cross vector r upon r cube. Now magnetic field produced due to the entire conductor will be vector B equals to integration vector dB equals to mu naught upon 4 pi integration vector dl cross vector r upon r cube. If charge density of wire is rho and charges are moving with velocity v, then the charge crossing any cross section area per second is current I, where I equals to rho VA and IDL equals to rho VA DL. Now rho A DL equals to Q, that is total charge contained in a wire of length DL. So IDL equals to QV. Substituting the value of IDL in the equation, so equation turns as dB equals to mu naught upon 4 pi QV sin theta upon r square, which can be written as vector dB equals to mu naught upon 4 pi Q vector V cross vector r upon r cube. Now applications of Biot-Savart law. The first application, magnetic field due to steady current in long straight wire. We want to find out the magnetic field B due to long straight wire carrying a current I at a point P which is at a distance A from the wire. Now from the Biot-Savart law, the magnetic field due to small element dl at point P is vector dB equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I vector dl into unit vector r upon r square, that is dB equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I dl sin theta upon r square, or B equals to integration dB, that is equals to integration from L equals to minus infinity to L equals to plus infinity mu naught upon 4 pi dl sin theta upon r. From figure, sin theta equals to a by r and r equals to under root a square plus L square, and B equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I integration dLA upon a square plus L square power 3 by 2. So when L equals to infinitive, angle phi equals to pi by 2, and when L equals to minus infinitive, angle phi becomes minus pi by 2. So from the figure, L equals to a tan phi and dl equals to a sec square phi d phi. Now substituting these value of L and dl in the equation turns as B equals to mu naught upon 4 pi Ia integration from minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2 a sec square phi d phi upon a square plus a square tan square phi power 3 by 2. So B equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I upon a integration from minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2 sec square phi d phi upon 1 plus tan square phi power 3 by 2. As we know, tan square phi plus 1 gives you sec square phi. So on substituting this value in equation turns as B equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I upon a integration from minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2 sec square phi d phi upon sec square phi power 3 by 2. B equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I upon a integration from minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2 cos phi d phi. On integrating this equation, we get B equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I upon a sin phi limits minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2. On substituting the limit in the equation, we get B equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I upon a sin pi by 2 minus sin minus pi by 2, which gives the equation B equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I upon a into 2, and B equals to mu naught upon 2 pi I upon a. That means the magnetic field at point P due to the long straight wire is B equals to mu naught upon 2 pi I upon a. Now the second application of Biot-Savart law, the magnetic field along the axis of circular coil. This is a circular coil of wire of radius A carrying a current I, and we want to find out the magnetic field at point P, which is at x distance from the center of the coil. Now from the Biot-Savart law, dB equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I dl upon r square, because vector dl and vector r are perpendicular to each other. Now the component dB sin theta is perpendicular to the axis of the coil, and dB sin theta, due to two elements are oppositely directed and cancel each other, while dB cos theta components are added up. So dB equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I dl cos theta upon r square. From the figure it is clear cos theta equals to A by R. Now substituting the value of cos theta in the equation turns as dB equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I dl A by R upon R square. dB equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I dl A upon R cube. Now the magnetic field due to the whole ring, it is integration over the entire ring. dB equals to integration over the entire ring mu naught upon 4 pi I dl upon R cube into A. Again the integration over the entire ring dB equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I over R cube A, integration over the entire ring dl. So integration over the entire ring dl gives you 2 pi A, that is the circumference of the ring. So B equals to mu naught upon 4 pi I upon R cube A into 2 pi A. Further solving the equation, B equals to mu naught upon 2 I upon R cube A square, or B equals to mu naught upon 2 I upon x square plus A square power 3 by 2 into A square. This shows that the magnetic field decreases as the distance x increases. At the center of the ring where x equals to 0, that means when there is no distance or the point P lying at the center, then B equals to mu naught upon 2 I A square upon A cube, or mu naught upon 2 I upon A. If we have n number of turns in a coil, so B equals to mu naught upon 2 Ni upon x square plus A square power 3 by 2 into A square. And at the center when x equals to 0, B equals to mu naught upon 2 Ni upon A. And if the point P lies far from the coil, that is x is much larger than A, then in place of x we can take as R. So in that case B becomes mu naught upon 2 I A square upon R cube. Now there is a figure of Helmholtz coil, because we are going to study about the variation of the field, and it is a principle of Helmholtz coil. Helmholtz coil have two circular coils of having n number of turns. So B equals to mu naught upon 2 Ni upon x square plus A square power 3 by 2 into A square. On differentiating this, dB by dx equals to mu naught Ni A square upon 2 d by dx A square plus x square power 3 minus 3 by 2. So it gives you dB by dx mu naught Ni A square by 2 brackets minus 3 by 2 A square plus x square power minus 5 by 2 into 2x. So it gives you dB by dx equals to minus mu naught Ni A square upon 2 3 A square plus x square power minus 5 by 2 into x. So dB by dx equals to minus mu naught Ni A square by 2 into 3 A square plus x square power minus 5 by 2 into x. Further differentiating the equation, d2b upon dx square, it gives you minus 3 mu naught Ni A square upon 2 bracket minus 5 by 2 A square plus x square power minus 7 by 2 into 2x into x plus A square plus x square power minus 5 by 2 into 1 bracket closes, and it gives you d2b upon dx square equals to minus 3 mu naught Ni A square upon 2. Now we have taken A square plus x square power minus 7 by 2 as common. So inside the bracket it comes minus 5x square plus A square plus x square. Now we want to see the variation of magnetic field with the distance. So we have kept d2b upon dx square equals to 0, or dB by dx equals to constant. when we are taking d2b upon dx square equals to 0, so either the first term will be 0 or the second term will be 0. So the first term cannot be 0 as it is having number of turns in the coil, the current in the coil and the radius of the coil, which cannot be 0. So we are taking the second term as 0. So that is a square minus 4x square equals to 0. This gives you a square equals to 4x square or x equals to plus minus a by 2. That means the magnetic field decreases on moving away along the axis from the center of the coil, and on a by 2 both sides of the coil rate of decrease of magnetic field is constant, and it is visible in this figure also. The third application of Biot-Savart law, the magnetic field of a solenoid. A solenoid is a long cylindrical helix. It is made by winding closely a large number of turns of insulated copper wires over a tube of cardboard or a china clay. When an electric current is passed through the solenoid, a magnetic field is produced around and within the solenoid. Now, if we want to find out the magnetic field at point P set up by a current I in the element of length dx is dB equals to mu naught upon 2 Ni upon L a square upon a square plus x square power 3 by 2 into dx. L is the length of the solenoid and N is the number of turns. From figure, x equals to a cot phi and dx equals to minus a cos x square phi d phi, and a square plus x square is equal to a square plus a square cot square phi, and which gives you a square common 1 plus cot square phi. 1 plus cot square phi equals to cos x square phi. So a square plus x square equals to a square cos x square phi. Substituting this value in equation, b comes as mu naught upon 2 Ni upon L integration from beta to alpha a square minus a cos x square phi d phi upon a square cos x square phi power 3 by 2. Again, b equals to mu naught upon 2 Ni upon L integration from beta to alpha minus a cube cos x square phi d phi upon a cube cos x cube phi. On further solving it, b equals to mu naught upon 2 Ni upon L integration beta to alpha minus 1 upon cos phi d phi. This gives you b equals to minus mu naught upon 2 Ni upon L integration beta to alpha sin phi d phi. On integrating this equation, b equals to mu naught upon 2 Ni upon L cos phi limits beta to alpha, and b equals to mu naught upon 2 Ni upon L bracket cos alpha minus cos beta. The magnetic field within the solenoid is uniform and parallel to the axis, and at any axial point within a long solenoid not too near either end, when alpha equals to 0 and beta equals to 180 degree, b equals to mu naught Ni upon L. At one end of a solenoid, when alpha equals to 0 and beta equals to 90 degree or vice versa, b equals to mu naught upon 2 Ni upon L. So the magnetic field at one end of the long solenoid is half of that at the center. If the solenoid is sufficiently long, then field within it except near the ends is uniform and parallel. The variation of magnetic field along the axis of solenoid can be seen by this figure. Thank you.